Good morning. Today we'll be teaching you on how to report biological particles. So, methods of reporting. Method of reporting biology or particles. Okay, we'll be very confined in this our study. It is just a guide for biology students, both in higher institution, encourages on how to report practicals in biology. Now, I always advise my students to report their biology practicals in a tabular format for easy understanding on the examiner who will what? Mark the script or mark your reports. First, you are entitled to talk about the title. The title. Okay, before the title, you place it in a tabular form this way. Section. You tell us the section and then the details of the section. Sections and the what? Detail. In a tabular form this way. Very good. Create a serial number. Number one. Number one is title. Your title is experiment. Experiment to test for what? Protein and what? Egg. Two is your aim. What is the aim of the experiment? Is to determine the presence. Determine the presence of what? Protein in and what? In an egg. After your aim, you talk about the hypothesis. Hypothesis. Three is hypothesis. Now, this hypothesis is not compulsory you write it when reporting a practical. You just write it where if it is what? Applicable. For instance, you can formulate your hypothesis like I've told you in my previous class that hypothesis is a tentative guess. So you can formulate a hypothesis if applicable to the practical. So I will add that if applicable in a pattern. For this one, it's not applicable, so that's why we're not adding it. The fourth one is what? They name the apparatus. The apparatus. You start mentioning the apparatus that we are needed for this. For instance, we are testing, we are using egg, for instance. So what is the apparatus? First is the what? Egg. The test tube. We added sodium hydroxide, NOH, copper 2 tetrahydrosulfate 6, and many of the things we use. Now, number 5, after the apparatus, you talk about the method. 5, method, or what we call procedure. So it depends on the term you want to. You cannot use the two together. Okay, you cannot use the word method or procedure together. Either you use method or you use what? Procedure. So at this point, in the detail side, you write the method. For instance, we are using egg as a case study. You will now say you brought one egg and then you perforated a bit at the tip of the egg, close to the egg space, and then you are gently shaking to what? To extract the abdomen on the test tube gradually, after which you place it on what? On a test tube rack, and then start adding your sodium hydroxide, shake, add your copper 2 sulfate, and then observe the color change. So whatever method you have used is what you are going to what? Write down on the details. The fifth one is what? Number 6 is results. Now, whatever you have gotten, the results or observation. So whatever you have seen after applying the method or the procedure as the case may be, you will write it out for us. It becomes your result or your observation. So these two words can be used interchangeably, but I prefer you using what? Results. If you use the observations, you are still correct. Now, after your results, the 7th step is what? Discussion. Now, this discussion is only applicable if you have stated a hypothesis. You begin to compare your result with what? Your hypothesis. Because I've told you that hypothesis is a tentative guess. So when you now begin to compare the guess you have made mention before the method, so you begin now to look into the result, whether it tallies with your what? Your guess. That is for what? Discussion. Number 8 step is what? Conclusion. Conclusion. Now, this is where you will now conclude. Remember, your results have shown you, they've given you an idea of what you're going to conclude after your discussion. Because that discussion is trying, you are trying to make this your hypothesis a working document, thereby making it a law or a principle, which will now come to what? Your conclusion. Still citing on our egg, using egg to test for protein, you cannot say that in conclusion, protein is what? Present. For instance, you will just say protein is what? Present. After your conclusion, you can now include your what? Precautions. Number 9 is precaution. The precautions. Now, this is the precaution, what you carefully did at the cost of what? Experimenting. What precaution? You make sure that what? You did not add in excess. Maybe this sodium hydroxide is asked to add 2 ml of sodium hydroxide. So make sure you did not add 2.1 ml of what? Sodium hydroxide. So that is the precautions. All these things are the precaution you are taking. Are you getting it? I make sure that after adding sodium hydroxide, I stirred or I shake the test tube before adding what? Copper 2 tetrasulfate 6. So after your precaution, the 10th step is what? Reference. Is what? Reference. Now you begin to cite. This one is if it's applicable. You begin to cite the authors or the book that gave you a hint in approaching this practical. That's for the reference. So reference is only if it is applicable. Are you getting it? It's mainly for higher degrees. Those people who are asked to do the experiment themselves. But for colleges and undergraduates, there is no need for referencing. And then for precaution, the precaution is if it is needed. If it's not needed in a particular experiment, there is no need. So thank you and God bless you.